Okay, so welcome, Libby, and welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us today. Libby, lovely to see you again. It's been a little while since we met.
Yes.
And I said we'll just do a brief introduction. We'll write a little bit more, and I know you're going to be explaining more about your work, which is why you're here.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to remember how we met, and we weren't sure how we met, but we did have a meeting in IKEA Cafe, which is halfway between us, wasn't it? I had a lovely chat then, and then you were telling me about your experiences with chronic regional pain disorder, and
Yeah.
we just sort of really clicked at that point, didn't we? We've kept in touch a lot since, and I just felt that you being able to talk about your work would be really helpful for us, and especially as your focus is on children, and for many of us it isn't, and also with our work, if only they had known all this stuff when they were children, then a lot of this would be prevented, and that's why I think your work is so important. So take it away.
Thank you. So yes, I am very, very much passionate about working with children, with young people, because of my experience, because of my learnings, my journey, because I do believe that it can be prevented, all this pain and suffering. I don't believe anybody should suffer with pain. Well, not for a long time. We know pain can be important for a short space of time, but you know, all the, and not just physical pain, the emotional pain as well. It's, there's so much out there, so many people and children who are suffering and struggling. So my background has come from my personal journey. When I was a little girl, I was quite often poorly. In fact, I was more than often poorly. I quite often had illnesses, whether it would be with my ears, nose and throat, or colds that turned into nasty viruses that lasted a lot longer. I spent a lot of my time off school, and I was known as the poorly child, basically a weak, poorly child, overly sensitive child. And I remember, I think I even had my tonsils removed 3 times because they kept growing back, which was just really bizarre. So, and when I got into when I hit my teens, I think it was around the age of 13, I was poorly, and I was bedridden for around 3 months.
Wow.
Now, looking back, I know it was depression, but at the time, nobody really knew what was wrong with me. I felt intense fatigue, and just felt ill, and just basically wanted to pull the covers over my head and just so that, you know, everything go away. So I had lots of doctor's visits. They sent me to the hospital because they thought, oh, perhaps I'd got glandular fever. So apparently in the first couple of weeks of glandular fever, you have the symptoms as if you've got a cold or a virus, and then it leaves you with the fatigue. But I refused to have blood tests. I didn't want to be prodded and poked, and so I refused to have all of that. I went to, did they get me a counsellor at that point? I can't remember. But they basically then got a child psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't remember which one they just began with a P. And this man came round to my house, and I was in bed. And he'd spoken to my parents, and he came into my bedroom, my territory, and sat on my bed and asked me some questions. And I was very vacant. I'd switched off. I had to switch off from my emotions because my emotions were so intense. And I remember that he reached out and he got my hands and he nipped the skin on my hand to try and get some kind of reaction, which again, I didn't react. And he basically said to me, you know, you've got your mum and dad exactly where you want them. You've got them wrapped round your little finger.
Wow.
And he said, you know, if you carry on doing this, I'm going to take you away from your parents and put you into a home.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I mean, to me, it was real. It was real. That everything that I was feeling, it was real. I looked dreadful. So he said, you're going to come to see me next time, wherever he was based. And if you don't, you will be sent into a home. We will take you away from your parents. So the following week, I got out of bed, and it was almost, I suppose, a bit like an agoraphobic. Now I can see that I had lost all confidence going outside of my house, being in the real world. And I went to see him, and it was a Friday morning, and he said to me, you are going to go back to school this afternoon. So he said, and if you don't, then we'll go back to, you'll be put into a home and you will have to do this, this and this. So I got back into the car and I panicked, and I begged my dad not to send me back. I said, I can't go back this afternoon. Please just leave me. Give me the weekend to pull myself together, and I'll go back on Monday. And that's what happened. So I went back to school. Because I'd been off for 3 months and been in bed for 3 months, I put on a lot of weight. So the rumour then was that I had been pregnant and had an abortion. So I had all of that to go through with as well. But I did it. And I got through my school. I left school, and I had another bout of depression. When I was extremely happy, my depression hit me. Now I know why, because that's the pattern. And then when I was in my early 20s, I was involved in a car accident, very minor car accident. It was a shunt forward. And I remember grabbing my wrist and thinking, crikey, that was sore. And I remember then the pains in my neck started, good old whiplash came about. And I had injured my wrist. They thought I had broken the scaphoid bone. So they put me in pot for a while, and then I went to Australia. I decided I just wanted to get away from everything, went to Australia. There was a big court case that was going to start because I'd been in this car accident. You know how solicitors and lawyers love a drama, big court case, wahey, lots of money, all of that going on. And I went to Australia for 15 months, had an amazing time, but my wrist was getting worse. So I came back, and they just said, oh, you know, simple operation that just needs to happen with your wrist. We're just going to release the tendon. And they did that, and I woke up in the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my arm, in my wrist. They thought I was being a baby because they didn't know about the condition that I had got from this surgery. And so we were supposed to wait to go back to physio, and when the pot and everything had come off, we got home, my wrist and hand was huge, and it had turned like this whitey, purpley colour. It had gone not good. And I couldn't stand the air around it, never mind anyone coming near. I would flinch even if somebody hadn't touched my wrist. And my mum just said, we're not waiting for your next appointment, I'm taking you down to the clinic now. And we got there, and the nurse just said, well, you haven't got an appointment. And I just pointed to my wrist, and she went, you'll see the orthopaedic surgeon, just take a seat. Went in, and he'd never heard of this condition, and the condition was CRPS, the complex regional pain syndrome. And he hadn't actually heard of it. He was very concerned. He didn't diagnose me at that point. What he did say was that he would do the surgery again because he thought that the adhesions were the problem. So he did the surgery again, which made it even worse. And when things got even worse, I remember having my stitches taken out, and I screamed. And again, they thought I was just being pathetic. He then actually decided to do his research and found out that with this condition, you should never, ever touch it or perform surgery or anything on it like that at all. So then they sent me down the route of, okay, physio, then pain clinic, then pumping me full of these drugs, which, yeah, you get to a state where you're so drugged up that you don't really care what's going on, but it doesn't resolve the pain. It doesn't get to that pain. So I had a spinal cord stimulator fitted, and I wanted to have children. So I thought this would be a good way to come off the meds and be able to have children. So I had my first spinal cord stimulator fitted, which is like an internal TENS machine, and it helped. But the way it was, the electrode used to move around. So for me to get a signal, the current down my arm to relieve me from pain, I used to have to put my head in funny positions to get the current.
Wow.
So I did it. That's how I did. And then I got referred to an amazing man in Cardiff, one of the top neurosurgeons in the country he was. And he had designed one specifically for arm pain. So I'd had my kids, went to see him, and I remember walking down to surgery with a very, very different mindset. And I walked down to surgery, said goodbye to my husband, was thinking about my kids, but I bought a load of books, and I'd also made sure that I had been accepted onto a course which was to work with children. It was a play therapist, and I had everything set up in place so that when I came out of that surgery, I could move forward in my life. So my mindset was very, very different. Had my surgery, the device worked a dream and gave me the confidence. A few weeks later, I was on a weekend course for the coaching. It was a free weekend course, booked myself on, still had all my bandages on my neck and everything. And I went and didn't look back. It was great. So I decided that I wanted to then perhaps coach parents who had children with this particular condition. And that's how I got introduced to you. I can't remember who, but I remember us meeting in IKEA. And you told me about your line of work and how you worked, how you saw pain, that it was emotional and all of that. And you had spoken to somebody in America and asked them about complex regional pain syndrome, and was it possible to clear this emotionally? Mm-hmm. And you said it was. Mm-hmm. And you said it was one of the most complex conditions, but it is possible. And I remember hearing that, and I think this is one of the biggest key things for all you practitioners is when somebody has got, not so much complex regional pain syndrome, but when somebody has got chronic pain to that extreme, there is a serious secondary gain running inside of them. Mm-hmm. A big, and to the point where I think my secondary gain was probably bigger and more painful than the chronic pain itself, which I didn't realise at that point. I consciously was doing everything I possibly could to get rid of this pain. So when I heard your words, I felt, quite a number of things. I felt fear, because I felt like I was going to be pushed into something, facing demons or something, like being pushed off the edge of the cliff far too quickly for me. I felt guilt, immense guilt, because I thought, gosh, this is curable, this is emotional, and yet I've put myself and all my family through hell, with having this condition. Yeah. So these were all the things that were running inside of me, and I didn't do anything with it. I couldn't at that point face trying to relieve my pain at that point. But I carried on working, and I carried on. And I'd heard of other people that were doing similar to what you were doing as well. But I avoided you. Because of the situation, not consciously. So In 2012, we'd not long been in this house, and I remember just walking through my bedroom and my back went. Just like that, my back went. And I was in a serious amount of pain, really bad. And I just thought, right, okay. So ended up in A&E, because I am a tough cookie. I don't feel, if I feel pain or anything, I get on with it. That was the problem. So I remember going to see a local physio, and I couldn't even get on her bed. She couldn't treat me because she couldn't get me on the bed. I was in that much pain. The NHS didn't want to know. They just said, oh, you've slipped a disc, basically that's what you've done.
Libby, can I ask at this point, what was your arm like as well?
So at this point, my arm, okay, yes, so I've skipped a bit. So my arm, after having the second surgery and moving forward, my pain was a lot better. And my pain was a lot better because of my mindset. Mm-hmm. So I was doing things along the way after seeing you, for myself. So like mindfulness and positive approach to things.
Right.
And I felt that was improving. Because of my mindset, I thought, well, I can do this. If it's emotional, I can do this. So that was the way that I was going, in the positive way. Okay. My arm wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. It still couldn't be touched, but it was nowhere near as bad as what it had been.
Right.
So I ended up on crutches. I ended up, they were giving me the painkillers, tramadol, which I liked a little bit too much. I was waking up on a morning on a high. I was like, woohoo, this is great. It's, the next morning. And then I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't be feeling like this. So then they wanted to do the spinal block on me, and I went to physio, and they just said, we've got to try this first, that first, da 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 da. And I said, okay, here's the thing. I have got the CRPS in the arm. Pain is much better, but this pain in my leg now, going down my leg, is starting with the same symptoms as what I had in my left arm. I know you have to go through your tick boxes, but if we're not careful, I could have this condition in my leg because it can spread. If we don't get to what's happening in my body, it can spread, and I can permanently have chronic pain in my right leg then. I don't want that. So let's skip your butt checklist and let's just go ahead and do something different. So I then came across somebody who was doing what you were doing, and it was New Year, and he'd got an offer on with what he was doing, the courses. And I said to my husband, I'm going to try this guy. I'm going to go to him because he's saying it's all emotional, and I cannot go down this route again of the NHS and how we did it with my arm. I don't want to live my life like that. So my husband was just like, why can't you just be like everyone else and just have the spinal block? Why do we have to go down this route? Blah, 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 blah. But at the same point, he was checking out how to get me to this guy. So I started to see Jonathan, and he explained to me, about what pain is. And he said, because you've not listened to the pain in your arm, because you basically masked it with a spinal cord stimulator, your body is finding a way of getting you to listen to it. So it's coming out in another area. And if you don't listen to this, it's going to find another way. And if you don't listen to that, it's going to find another way, to the point where what's going to have to happen to you. And he said, and I think it's linked to your arm, definitely linked to your arm. And I remember saying, well, I'm all right with my arm. I can live with my arm. And he was like, what? And I said, the pain isn't too bad. I just want you to sort my back out, my leg out. I can live with my arm. It's all right. And he said, how little do you value yourself? And I went, I'm a coach. Of course I value myself. Anyway, I obviously didn't. And we got to the root cause. And do you know what? It was a very painful journey, sifting the layers of what it was. But we got there.
Was that through coaching, through counselling?
No, through clearing it energetically. clearing it energetically. So there was no coaching, counselling. I didn't want to counsel. I didn't know, consciously and apart, subconsciously, I did not know. The only thing that knew was that pain in my arm. And it was, there were points in that process, the like 14-month process, where I just went, do you know what? I'd rather be in physical pain than go through this. This is too much. This is just too much. And it would take me a good few days to recover from a session.
Wow.
That's how intense it was. But he got me to the point where I could use my arm, because before I couldn't. My arm was literally, it was stuck solid. It was grey. It was getting thinner and thinner. It was wasting away. I couldn't use a knife and fork. I couldn't hold I brought my children up with one arm. I couldn't hold their hands. I got married, you know, with a wedding ring on the other finger. All of that, all of a sudden came back to me. I could go on a trampoline. It's silly. I could use a knife and fork, which was incredibly emotional. Yeah. I could dry myself with both hands. All the little things that we take for granted, I could all of a sudden do. And it was huge. Yeah. And he got me to that point, and he taught me so much about how it all works. And I then became a Psych K facilitator. I teach meditation, and I just thought, I've got to help these kids. I've got to help these kids. What I did as a child was all the shocks and traumas that I went through, I blocked. I wasn't allowed to show my emotions. I was brought up in a family where we just didn't do that. That generation don't know how to show their emotions. They don't know what to do with their emotions. So, and I thought, I don't want my children brought up like this. I went out of my way to help my children to express themselves. So I was already doing it with my own children. And I just thought, I want to be able to help these children and help these parents as well, show their children how to do it. It's incredibly important for these children to see that emotions are normal. These feelings that we have, they're a normal part of us. And it's important. They're an important part of us. Absolutely. They can be painful at times. And, you know, if you've got the tools to clear them, so you're not stuck in them, it's okay to feel. And that's the thing. It is okay to feel. We're brought up in society to not feel.
Absolutely.
And it's so incredibly important for everybody to feel. And we just, you know, like I heard myself say to you a little bit earlier on, that I'm tough, you know, tough cookie, I get on with it. And that's the thing. It's the trouble. We just get on with it. We ignore. We're so fast paced, and we've got to get this done. We've got to get that done. We don't listen.
Absolutely. I think that's a major problem with the Western world. Absolutely. And the major problem is especially with people who present with chronic pain.
Yeah.
Just not aware of their emotions.
No, absolutely not. They almost detach from them because they're too painful. Yeah. And I think that, you know, with the children, the way that they pent it up inside of them and it all comes out. I think parents are very frightened of being judged by society. They're told they should be doing it this way, should be doing it that way. Yeah. So it's very much about, I help parents to connect in with their heart and do it the way they want to, not the way they feel that they should be doing it.
Right. Yeah.
And quite often our children are mirroring stuff that's going on inside of us. So that's another thing that for parents to see, that if their children are displaying some kind of behavior or some kind of emotion, it's like, okay, what are they showing you about you? Because quite often when parents are in that fast track mode and they're doing busy, it's the children who express it. But then these beautiful, sensitive children are getting labelled because they're just bursting out with all these emotions and they don't know what to do with them. It's coming out in behaviour. So that's what I do now. I start with the young and I help them to look at their emotions, to see they're not scary monsters, to help them manage their emotions, to give them tools that if something does happen, a shock or a trauma, they've got the tools then to clear it and themselves. So we're empowering them as well, to give them a tool that they can feel, okay, I've got this tool that I can use. Yeah. So they're not stuck in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you going to give us an idea of what sort of tools you use with them?
One of the key things that I help them to do is to accept. So, because I think accepting is the key to so much. We don't like to accept or embrace. We like to fight it. We fight our pain, don't we? Yeah. We go to the doctors and we want a quick fix. We want a magic pill that's going to take us away from this pain. We don't want to have to deal with it. So one of the things that I do with children and parents is, okay, so where are you feeling this in your body? And have a little chat with it. Just go and sit and have a chat and tell it that you accept it. You're not fighting it anymore. You're not ignoring it. You're just accepting it. And some people go, but I don't want to accept the pain.
Yes, we hear that all the time.
Yeah, but it's you're not accepting the pain. You're listening to it. And just by doing that, it just goes. I had a client come to see me, and she'd been struggling with anxiety, severe anxiety, and she came to see me, and in the first session I got her to just place a hand on it and send it acceptance, and she just went, where's it gone? She said, I can't believe it. She said, have I been suffering all this time when all I needed to do was just yeah, there's more to it than that, but it's just about listening to it. But we go straight into the fear, ego, in that logical, and we disconnect from our bodies. Yeah. So it's helping people to connect into their bodies, come out of the logical heads, go into the heart. Because, the heart brain, the gut brain, and getting them to listen to the wisdom in there as well and really connect back in.
And to learn this from childhood is so amazing. I mean, that's one of the hardest things I reckon that my clients find, is being able to feel how they feel, to be able to understand what emotional awareness is and allow the emotions to process through the body. Because they're so focused on what the physically or the pain, to actually get them, and even to surrender to the pain. And they're thinking, well, no, why am I surrendering to the pain? And just not understanding it, and then trying. And I was saying to them, it's like a new sense, isn't it? It's like a felt sense that we're just not generally aware of.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy. But once we stop and pause, then we can start thinking, okay, and ask, like you say, talk to the pain, listen to your heart, whatever. But that, I think, is one of the hardest things, because they're so generally we're so ingrained in not feeling, and therefore it can be a real challenge.
Well, if you think about, a lot of parents, if they see their child upset, they want to take that pain away from them. It's like, oh, don't worry, have a biscuit, that'll make you feel better. Yeah. I always remember some friends of mine, and they were like, have a cup of tea, you'll feel better with a cup of tea.
Oh, the British, the cup of tea.
There you go. But I'll give you an example. I had a little boy come to see me last week. I've been working with him now, and again, his mum was very worried about him, in the sense of he was showing different behaviour. He was showing a lot of anger, and he was on the verge of being labelled. They were going to go down that route of perhaps we should get him assessed and labelled. Excuse me. So he's been working with me, and he came to see me last week, and I hadn't seen him for a few weeks. And his mum said, are you going to tell Libby about what happened? So he was telling me that something had happened, and the emotion, the anger came up and overtook him. And he realised that he shouldn't have behaved like that, but he didn't want to admit it at the time. So he went down to the bottom of the garden and acted like nothing had happened. I said, okay. But he said to me, I realised that I was wrong in what I'd done. And I said, so what could you have done differently? So now you realise that, what could you, if it was to happen again, what would you do? So he said, right. And he thought about it and he said, well, I know, Libby, that if I ignore the feeling of anger or frustration, it will just get stronger. So I know that to take myself away and just listen to that. And I actually filled up when he said that to me, because I just said, do you know what? That's the key message that I'm wanting to get to you children. And you've just shown me that I've got that message to you, because that's absolutely wow. That for an 8-year-old little boy knows that if he ignores that feeling, it's just going to get stronger and come out in another way. And he acknowledged it, and he could see. And I said, I'm feeling emotional listening, because that's absolute wow what you've just said.
Yeah.
And we looked at affirmations. We were looking at changing his beliefs and doing some affirmation work with him. And the affirmation that he came up with was, I am meant to be me. And that's okay. He was basically saying it's okay to be me.
Yeah.
I am enough. I am meant to be me. And again, I just thought, for an 8-year-old little boy to come out with that, and he's gonna have that new affirmation, because we did some work around that, and he's going to take that through his life now. And I just thought, that's it. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. How wonderful. Because Sarah, how many of our patients, and with anybody with chronic pain, and probably any anxiety, depression, and any other thing, the root of that is that we do not feel enough. Whatever's going wrong, we don't feel enough in one way or another. So if we all grew up learning that from such a young age, wow, fantastic. And I know you use Psych K a lot, don't you? You find that really helpful.
Yeah, I do use Psych K, but I kind of use different things with it. So I just go with my intuition, really. Because this little boy was saying, I said, if you can describe what I do. And he said, it's magic. It's just magic, really. And we were talking about being a white witch, because people call me like a white witch, a good witch. And his muscle testing, because with the kids we use the sway, and his yes.
Explain the sway.
So the sway is, you can use muscle testing in different ways. And so if we were to stand up and eyes looking down, say our name, we would sway either backwards or forwards. So when I say my name's Libby, I move forward. I can do it sitting down as well. And if I say my name's Donald Duck, I move backwards. So my yes is forward and my no is backwards. And it's a really good way of bypassing the conscious mind, because the conscious mind, we're all great, aren't we, at blocking. So if there's a block, I can ask, but it's incredible, because still using the sway, the muscle testing, people can still try and block without them knowing, but that's where my intuition kicks in, and I just think, no. So I bypass it again then. So I use lots of different tools, really, but it's a lot of energy work.
Right.
A lot of energy work that I do, yeah.
And do you mainly work with kids with behavioural problems, or do you work with people, with youngsters with pain?
I haven't had specifically with pain. I've had old clients, like parents who have got, my back's really bad, because of what's going on in the family, and then they'll walk out without a bad back, and they're like, wow. But what tends to happen is these sensitive souls, these children where they're in the mainstream system and it's not suiting them, and they're being labelled naughty or being expelled, and there's a lot going on for them, and they're incredible. These children are incredible. You know, the autistic spectrum, the ADHDs, or even if they haven't got that, there's behavioural issues. And what I'm seeing is they've got a lot to teach us and show us. But we're not seeing it because we're so busy. We haven't got time to actually sit and learn from them.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is labelling so we can get extra support in, and it's not bringing the best out of these kids. So yes, I work a lot. I help these children who have got so much going off inside of them. They don't know what to do with them, with these emotions and feelings. So.
And you call yourself the emoji coach, don't you?
Yes, I am the creator of the emoji coach. Yes, I'm known as the liberator, the white witch, the light bringer. These are the names that are coming in. The light bringer for children, and I am the creator of the emoji coach. Yes.
Do you want to explain a bit about the emoji coach?
So the emoji coach is all about emotions, and I haven't got them. Oh, actually, just let me get them 1 second. So these are, when I'm working with children, these are the big emojis that I use. And I use them with all sorts of different games, put them on the floor, get them to stand on them, step on them, which one's the feeling. So they don't have to use words, because quite often when you ask children or adults, well, how are you feeling, or what's going on, why, they don't know.
Oh, maybe we should have those.
Yeah, they don't know. So I use the emojis so they can point to an emoji. And the beautiful thing about these emojis is there's a couple of them the same. They all mean different things to the different children. They all mean different things to us. So they can choose an emoji and then we can start to explore. But I still don't ask them, well, why did you behave like that? Or why are you feeling like that? We don't need to know that. We don't need to know that. The important thing is that if there's a build-up of emotions and they're stuck, that we clear that for them using lots of fun, different ways and techniques. I've created the emoji chart. So the emoji chart is a tool that they can use. So at the back, you've got reusable stickers and you've got a traffic light system. So they know that if they're starting to feel like that and want to, because this is a key message, they have a choice of how they feel. Yeah. They don't have to feel a certain way. So they can then go to the tool in the centre where they've got reusable stickers. They choose an emoji and then they go through the tool. There's a tool in there to help them to change how they feel. So to change from a negative to a positive if they want to. Yeah. But it's also a tool that can be used in the family to help the family start talking about their emotions, and it's used in classrooms as well. Brilliant. So teachers are using it for children. I've had somebody recently buy it. They are an acting school, and so they're using it in sessions. So if a child comes in feeling a certain way, he'll give them the chart to go and use. Right. And I've also created affirmation cards. So the affirmation cards there's 50 in a pack of affirmations. There's some blank ones in there as well, so they can choose their own affirmation. But again, there's a twist. These affirmation cards have a tool, because one of the things that I say to people is I'm not a sticking plaster. I don't like to put a plaster over it. I like to really embed. Yeah. So the tool in the affirmation pack, again, if they want to, they can clear that old belief first before they then choose a new affirmation. Right. And then use the affirmation cards.
Yeah, excellent. Wow. Sarah, have you got any questions? I always find it so fascinating talking to you, Libby.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've just found it really interesting, Libby. But I don't get children coming through my door. But I'm sort of thinking, how can I apply this stuff to adults? And I'm sure, because some of our adults are so emotionally, I was going to say illiterate, out of touch, I think is that. They're totally out of touch. Even when, even when they know it's making them ill, they still don't want to go there.
No.
They'd rather be ill.
Yeah.
I'm working with somebody at the moment with a life-threatening disease, an autoimmune disorder, life-threatening, and she says, I do not want to deal with the stuff about my son.
No, it's so sad.
She can't go there.
They have to get there themselves. And I think the thing for me was my chronic pain was keeping me safe. You know, it was hiding me. It was keeping me safe out of the world, which isn't a nice place. You know, it can be quite horrible out there, and it can hurt. And like I say, whilst I was in it, I was trying so many different ways to combat my pain. So consciously, I was thinking, I'm doing a great job here. I've tried this, and this, and mental, you know, which the mindset shift did help me. I was determined to get back into life. I remember phoning up the job centre and saying, I'd like to come off my benefits, please, and can you help me to set up my own business? And it was like silence at the end of the phone. They thought I was prank calling them.
Wow.
So it was, you know, it was just quite amazing, the whole process, because they never got people wanting to come off benefits. But it kept me safe. And this is the thing. But if you were to go to somebody, one of your patients, to say, this is keeping you safe and it can, you know, go because of blah, 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 you frighten the hell out of them. You probably won't see them again. You know, but it's gentle little steps. And it's getting that trust, and it's trusting that when they're ready, they'll let go of it. And like I say, it can be far more painful to let go of that than actually have the pain or the condition. It can be easier to have that condition. Thank God, I was ready to do that. Yes, I took my time, but I got there in the end, and I wanted. And I remember after seeing Georgie, when I came home and I spoke to my parents about it, and they were like, no, it's physical, it's real, and what have you. I'm going, it is real, yeah, it is real, but there's an emotional underlying. So I knew everything she was saying was right. You know, I knew everything that but it frightened the life out of me, and I didn't have that support from. Well, I say I didn't have the support from my parents. That's wrong, because they did support me, but they didn't get it. They didn't get that it was an emotional. How can it be emotional when you've been through all of that? And the even scariest thing is that when I was in the pain clinic, I remember I never showed my pain to people. I just didn't show them it. Nobody knew. There were close friends who didn't know I had chronic pain. And I remember going to see the pain specialist, and I asked her about amputating my arm. I actually had that conversation. Would it be better if we just amputated my arm? And then, because I can't use my arm anyway, so I might as well just not have an arm, and I'll be pain-free, and I can just get on with my life. And thankfully, she said, well, the thing is, Libby, you've then got... you could then have what's called phantom pain. So we could amputate your arm and you may still have pain because it's to do with the nervous system, autonomic nervous system. So thankfully it was a no-go, because I was just like, get rid of this pain, just amputate my arm.
And people do that.
They do.
You hear about people that do that.
Yeah.
And I know when we met, and it was funny, wasn't it? Because we'd arranged to meet, and I brought my mother-in-law to walk around IKEA doing the sort of daughter-in-law bit. Well, I'm just going to meet somebody for a chat. And it wasn't as a client, was it? It was like networking. We heard about each other, so we met up. And my mother-in-law refused to walk around IKEA, so she sat on this sofa in front of us.
She did.
And at the end said, so did you have a nice chat? And it was almost like she sort of, didn't realise it was sort of in a way a business thing to get to know each other and understand each other's work. So it was funny. But I'm sure it was you, Libby, and it was years ago now, wasn't it? But I'm sure it was you that was saying that your son had gone to school and he'd been bullied. And that this bully then, you've been explaining that bullies act out, that they're the ones that are in pain, and that he understood this, and that he said to the bully, I know why you're angry, it's because your grandma died this week. And
I remember that now.
I've never forgotten you telling me, and I just thought, oh my God, I wish I'd known this when my kids were little.
Yeah.
I missed out.
I remember, I totally forgotten about that, but yeah, you're right, I did. I did, yeah.
And how wonderful.
There was something in me that from the day they were born that I knew I wanted to be different with them, and I got stick, especially with Cameron, my son. Because I encouraged him to cry, and I encouraged him to sit and talk and express. And I'd get some male people saying, what you're doing, he needs to toughen up. You need to toughen him up, and he needs to turn around and smack them, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no. No. But yeah, I do remember he did say that, bless him.
So what understanding empathic kids you have because of this understanding that you passed on to them?
Yeah, he was talking about a friend, actually, because Cameron he's going to be 16 in end of July now. So
he was only something like 7, wasn't he? Then?
Yeah, he was
a long time ago.
Yeah,
he was very early into this work.
Yeah, and it's funny because with me, you wouldn't think that he'd taken anything on board, but when you hear the conversations that he has with other people, and that the way he just, somebody's mum had shouted at his mate, and he just went, she's just under stress because you're going away, don't worry about it, it's okay, don't take it personally. And I thought,
yeah,
so,
when that happens, yeah.
So it's still there in him, I just don't see it as much. So, no. And he has been taken into that boy sector where he's not as connected as what he was. But I was only saying to him this morning, actually, don't ever disconnect from your heart. Keep yourself in your heart. He's going, yeah, mum, yeah.
He will. And as I only came across this work when my kids were teenagers, and they fully embraced it. And like you say, the way they explain to other people, and they, I wish I'd known it when they were little, but the fact is that they at least do understand it now and embrace it. And I think that's the important thing.
And the main thing is, he had stomachache last week, and he came to me with it. He didn't see it as stomachache, I've eaten something wrong or whatever. He said, I've got stomachache, will you check in for me, please?
That's what my son did this weekend. He said, I've got a bit of tingling in my arm at the moment. What might that mean? And I know I need to spend more time. He immediately knows that this is not physical, it's emotional. And he actually does know what it's all about. He just needs a reminder to take that time out and deal with it.
Yeah, and isn't that lovely that our kids know that there's, hang on a minute, this is something more going on there. So we've done a great job, Georgie, haven't we?
We're trying.
My husband he's a thatcher and a carpenter, but if ever I complain of a headache or a sore throat or something, he says, what's up, love? And tries to get me to talk about it. Or if he's been more into the kind of psychogenic pain and symptoms thing.
Yeah.
Been in it, aware of it for many more years than I have, due to what he was exposed to when he was in his late teens, where he mixed with people who fully embraced, the body is your interface with the world, and symptoms are a result of what's going on psychologically.
Yeah.
And so he's really on board, which is really, really good because it really supports my work. But Libby, I just wanted to ask, because I'm aware the time's ticking on, do you still have the spinal cord stimulator?
I do, and it's funny you should ask that, because on Thursday last week I actually went for an appointment about having it removed.
Yes.
So I went to the pain clinic's totally changed. They don't have the funding for it now. So you go through like an organisation, and it's fascinating. They would put me on an app if I had pain to manage my pain without being referred. And I was done in 5 minutes. And he's like, so can I help you with any pain? No. So is there anything at all that you've got any pain left? No. And he was quite stunned by it. But I'm now going...
Say, where does he, as a consultant, having seen you make 100% recovery, I gather that's what you're saying, so, you know, an absolute 100% recovery, where does he go as a consultant in his head and in his practice, having heard that? I mean, were you able to tell him about your recovery by doing this emotional work? Or?
Well, he wasn't the consultant. He was deciding whether to refer me, which they are, to have this removed. When I go and see the consultant, I will absolutely tell him. When I first started to... or before, actually, it was after I'd seen Georgie, I saw a pain nurse and I said, you know, I'm looking at maybe this could be about emotional. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She just wouldn't have it. And yet they do drug trials and use placebo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, there's got to be some kind of thoughts. But when I go and see the consultant, it's a big decision that there's logically, I don't want to have more surgery because the electrodes are actually lodged in my spine. They chipped away some of the bone, so they're fused in. So I know it's going to be a big thing to have it removed, but I'm listening to my body, and I don't think my body wants to have a battery in it anymore. Energetically, I don't think it's the right thing for me to have a battery in it anymore. And that's why I'm going down the road. I've not used my stimulator for years. I don't regret going down that path because it was the right thing at that time, and it helped me. It really helped me, and gave me the confidence to get out there and do, you know, what I've done. So I don't look back and regret it at all, but I am looking to have it removed. And that will be emotional because I changed my car a couple of years ago because I drove an automatic because I couldn't use my left arm, so I had an automatic car. And each little step that I still take forward brings some emotion up of like, wow, this is amazing. So when I got my manual car, because I was determined from the day I couldn't use a manual car, I was determined one day I would be able to drive with a manual car again. It was so emotional, but a lovely, happy emotional, because it's like, I'm driving in a manual car again. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Had my driving license changed back again. So each little thing, when I have that battery removed, it will still tug at me and think, wow, this is fantastic. And my daughter Charlotte, she was putting some sun lotion on my back the other day. And so I've got like the battery scar, I've got a scar in the middle, and I've got a scar right at the top of my neck. And she said, I love seeing your scars. I said, do you? She said, yeah, I do, because it reminds me of the journey that you've been on.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's been a journey. And one of my closest friends just says it's a miracle that you were in that much pain and you're now totally pain free. And if I do get a niggle, I clear it.
Yeah.
I just clear it, and it's gone. So yeah.
If you saying you clear it is what we would say being emotionally aware and acknowledging the emotion, so you don't need the pain anymore.
Yeah.
Because as we said, the pain becomes that distraction.
Yes.
And it's just a manifestation of the unresolved emotions. But we're trying to help people.
I listen to it. But I go to the gym now, and I'm like using weights. I what I call the big man's corner with all the and I'm like that doing my weights. And it's still, you know, my arm is still weaker. It can't hold my weight as much, but it's really so much stronger. I mean, the muscles, my arm was so thin, but it's building up, and it's building up really well. But yeah, I just don't have any pain, so.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Libby. I really appreciate you telling us your story, and I think it's such a powerful story. And the fact that also it has enabled you, or being the reason for you doing the work that you do, and that gives you so much more passion for this as well.
Yeah,
and
it
fantastic that this is, you are starting with people so young, which is really where we need to be focusing. And
yeah. On my website, I'll just share the page with you. So on my website, there is a login section, because what I've done is I've put free resources on there. Right. So there's free resources which have got mindfulness meditation, there's meditations that you can listen to, all sorts of things for parents to use and teachers. Mm-hmm. So if you go to the login section on the website, which looks a bit different now because I have updated the website, it will drop down and you can register as a parent or a teacher. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, you've got access to all the free resources on the website. And plus there's the shop section on there where you can buy my charts and the affirmation cards. So let me just go to the next one. It'll take you to... That's a teacher registration, but you'll put your details in there. Nobody else can see you on there. And then you'll go through to, again, it looks different because I have updated it, but there's like starting school, because, you know, as parents, as adults, we do pass a lot of our stuff on to children. Yeah. So it's helping the parents as well as the children. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so if you have any clients that are parents, then feel free to theemojicoach.com and they can log in and get the free resources.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I think we need to be sharing this with the database as well, especially leading up to the end of the holidays when people are going to be starting school.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll put that in the diary and we'll share that in August.
Fab.
People start working with that. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Libby. I know that people are going to really enjoy listening to this and find it very helpful. And also just have that view on the website as a go-to when necessary. So thank you.
It's a pleasure.